Another plank in the AUKUS partnership has been laid down. Australia purchasing or agreeing to more than 200 long-range Tomahawk cruise missiles from the US, the cost of a lazy 1.7 billion. Let's bring in Professor John Blaxland from ANU, who noted my, I don't know what it is there. It's all money in defence anyway these days, isn't it? Dumb this down in 30 seconds. What does this mean? Is this sort of the sort of thing we could actually defend ourselves with one day, or is this more about the strategic geopolitical element here? We're part of a network, if you like, of deterrence.
So this is a picture of an expanded approach to being more bristly, having greater range, having a greater suite of options to defend ourselves in extreme circumstances, to deter bullying, coercion, blackmail, and intimidation and potential strikes. This is only possible because of the essential wolf warrior diplomacy and the sharp power from China under President Xi. It's inconceivable we would have done this a few years ago, except for the incredible expansion of Chinese military capabilities that scared the horses in the neighbourhood.
So when you talk about these, because we're used to the stepping through the theoretical scenarios, I guess, of the mutually assured destruction of nuclear. With this type of weapon, is it a similar element? You know, they fired 10, we fired 20, and the more you have, the more it's like, don't start it, because...
It's about not starting. Yeah, this is about preventing it starting in the first place.
But you've got to have enough for them to be worried. If you don't have many, they sort of go, eh.
You've got to complicate their planning. You've got to complicate their calculations about what kind of intimidation they can exercise against us and what effect that's going to have in light of what we have in our arsenal. If you don't have an arsenal, you don't have an intimidating effect, you don't have a deterrent effect.
It's interesting to look back on recent decades, the nuclear build-up around the world, around the Cold War. I mean, we actually have a lot fewer nuclear weapons in the world compared to then. But it feels like the trajectory generally is going the other way. So China's rise and aggression and so on, every country's arming up. Is that just a phase we're in? And we hope one day to be going the other way for whatever reason, but at the moment, we've got to join in?
So the pact between the United States and the Soviet Union and then Russia was about reducing, limiting arms between the Soviet Union and Russia and the United States. China really didn't feature because it was a minnow in terms of nuclear weapons. That equation's changed. China's been expanding its ballistic missile capability and its nuclear weapons capability, and it's doing it at a breakneck pace, expanding its missile silos in the western deserts of China, expanding its capabilities to an extent that it is now a major part of the equation. It's one of the reasons touted by the United States for its changing its policy towards disarmament and strategic arms limitation, in part because China wasn't in the equation. So China's expansion has shifted the dynamics enormously between the
and so when you're
superpowers.
adding it up and you say it used to be a pretty simple equation of US
and Soviet Union,
USSR,
yeah,
and now you throw China in the mix, and that's why you seem to sort of be pulling your weight as an ally if you can throw a few into the mix, because they're US missiles, but we're paying for them.
But we're not. There's an important distinction to make. We're not talking about nuclear missiles.
No, I know that.
We're only conventionally armed missiles. And the other thing is people forget. People think, oh, we're going to go to a nuclear war easily. We haven't had a nuclear war since 1945, and even under duress, Vladimir Putin isn't going there in Ukraine. So nuclear warfare, you need to park that to a side, because people fight wars short of the nuclear threshold. They still do it. They have for 80 years. So we need to be thinking about what kind of a contingency might arise where we might be intimidated, where we might be threatened short of the nuclear threshold. And it's in that context that this happened.
If somehow Hitler had a nuclear weapon, he probably would have used it.
He was trying to develop one, for sure. Yeah, he was
and they
hoping
had
to
those
get
V2 rockets as one form. But anyway, I digress.
Exactly right.
John Blaxland, I've gone down the rabbit hole, but happy to do it with you. Talk soon.